To create a brand identity across our 3 productions, we use things such as similar images, similar colours, similar wording, and our own unique style across the 3 productions, which were our film, poster, and magazine. For example, in our magazine, the main image on the top left of it was a close-up of the antagonist when she just caught one of our protagonists in the alley. And obviously, that was a screenshot taken from the film. So both in the magazine and the film, there's already close-ups of the antagonist. And in our poster, the main photo is the antagonist. It's just her face and it's been edited and manipulated multiple times to create a kind of more harrowing and dark effect. And that brings us on to our next point about colour. When we were researching horror, we noticed there was lots of dark colours, kind of deep brown, red, black, and sometimes the colours would juxtapose themselves. So when we research posters such as The Exorcist, or The Last Exorcist Part 2, there was a theme of white, and obviously the meaning of white is pure and innocence, and they kind of juxtaposed that with the danger of the antagonist on their poster, and we wanted to do the same sort of thing. So on our poster we used white font to describe everything else, such as like the credit block, the directors of the last films who are now directing this film, and so on. So that was the colour, and we wanted to use the same similar colours, but not to the point we would be plagiarising different professional productions. And the kind of deeper and darker colours were to emphasise the horror of it, I guess, because when we were researching posters, there was kind of fire red, like orange, red, brown, black, and all these sorts of colours which just imply the kind of horror narrative. And for the name of our company placed across all our productions in the film, the name of our production is used with a typewriter font with a typewriter sound in the background. That's in the beginning to kind of introduce the production of our production company to let all the audience know what film they're watching. And that in our magazine, we didn't, because obviously the magazine was supposed to be a kind of third-person perspective on our company, we couldn't use, this is Intermotion Films magazine, for example, so we took the style of the Empire magazine article and we dedicated the article to talking about our production, which was Intermotion Films, and kind of style they used, how many films they'd written, and all that kind of stuff, as that reinforced the brand image, just as it did in the poster and the film. And finally, for the and we go back and we use the horror sketch as well, the horror sketch font across all of our productions. So on the poster, the font style is the horror sketch, because when we were researching different fonts, we found a kind of childish but kind of creepy feeling across all fonts. Like in the 27 It poster, the font of that is kind of like a child wrote it, but then it's been manipulated and it's kind of got a red kind of glow around it to kind of imply danger and all that kind of stuff. So when we used the horror sketch font, we wanted to incorporate that across all of our productions. So in our film, there's a scene with the writing of the horror sketch font, and on our poster, the title font is the horror sketch font, and on the magazine, there's a bit on the bottom right. It's kind of an added bit to the magazine where it just uses the font of the horror sketch. And that's how we reinforced brand identity across all our 3 productions.
We believe our magazine will sell, as we started pretty similar to how Empire have. The similarity of the 2 will attract the same audiences towards our article. As Empire is a very popular magazine with a wide audience, a variety of ages, we believe that we could target the same audiences they have, and as they've done this over the course of years, it'll be quite simple if we try our best. As said earlier, we believe that the use of colour such as red, which implies power and evil, will be very useful to us, as they are very similar conventions to horror movies, and black as well, as it's people see it as death. So we used all of these two colours through all of our productions. So basically blood in the film on the antagonist, red writing in the poster, and the black theme in the poster, which we also used in the film as we filmed in the dark. To us, brand image is important to reinforce, as when the audience sees something similar, they will think of our film, as done in big franchises. Like, for example, when people think of space, they think of Star Wars and sci-fi movies, and like when you see a clown, people think of it and stuff like that.
How do you think the two real media texts will sell each other? And the example is symbiotic relationships. So before we started up the work on our real media text, we looked at the importance of a symbiotic relationship between real media texts. So when we considered posters and magazines, we saw posters as a kind of creating excitement for the film, as it kind of rose awareness to it, and it started bringing in the audience. And a poster is pre-film release, and then the magazine is normally post-film release. So we saw the poster as a kind of something which creates excitement, and the magazine which continues the excitement. So when considering a magazine and poster as working on their own, we talked about how a poster would be more successful because it lets the audience create their own imagination of the film, and it doesn't impose its own opinion. So by looking at the poster of our film, you just see the antagonist's face, the name of the film, the directors who are working on the film, and you can kind of formulate your own opinion on the film from just the poster you're looking at. Whereas when we considered magazines, we saw them more as a biased source of information, I guess, because the writer for the magazine would have had to see the film and then review it. And a review is based on what your thoughts on the film are. So if they're negative thoughts, and then you talk about that in the article of a magazine, it wouldn't sell the film as much as it would it would make it less of a selling point, because audiences who read the article, who were considering to go see the film, wouldn't want to go see the film based on a bad review. Whereas if you were to look at a poster and form your own opinion on it, then you would be more likely to go and watch that film.
What elements of your film, poster, and magazine communicate the genre of the film? In the magazine and the poster, we used dark colours, mainly red and black. Black being known for death, red being for power. This helped us reinforce conventions of the production. We did this to associate our film with horror, as a lot of people, when seeing horror films, they see black, red, like for example in It. There's another one, The Exorcist, where they used white as the background to make it different, like to show peace in the background, but used red writing and black writing on top of it. We used a variety of close-ups in our film as well, just to be different from the generic type of horror movie, just to put our own twist on it. Like, the antagonist was our selling point of the real media text, in this case the real media text being poster and magazine. We also used a lot of different fonts, like the font symbolised horror, as there is a juxtaposition between childish innocence of the font and the brutish destruction of it. So we looked at examples, trailers in this case, where we saw a film where a person was carving their writing into the wall with their fingers, so we got the idea of the writing to look like that.
In our magazine, when we were creating the article, we mainly focused on making sure horror was a prominent theme throughout the article. We wanted to make sure that if you read the article, you knew exactly what kind of film you'd be reading about without having to read any of the text. So through this, we use like dark colours. Our main photo in the top left of the article is a photo of our antagonist with blood around her neck, kind of looking lifelessly into the distance with a black background. And she's wearing a white dress, and you have a black background. Those two colours juxtapose each other in the sense that white is about innocence and purity, and black is about death and kind of nothingness. So when those two colours are put together, you kind of create this unique style of colours. So when considering the two real media texts and whether they'll sell each other, we think they will definitely sell each other, as even though they're not supposed to be part of the same production, in reality, the poster would be created by a production and the magazine article would be created by a completely different company. When comparing the two together, you would get a suitable amount of notoriety for the two, as the poster would kind of make the film it create the excitement for the film a lot easier. Whereas the magazine continues that excitement, which I mentioned earlier. And although they're not part of the same production, they definitely work together well, in the sense that you get a larger audience from just two different companies, which is the aim of a symbiotic relationship.
For a film production, we needed to create a film poster that had to sell to our audience. In order to do this, we had to make it appealing to a horror type audience, so we used things like Photoshop to create the antagonists to look dismembered and like evil. This gives an insight to the audience as what they can expect for the film. Again, we use things like red and black to contrast and imply fear and death within the character. Like most horror film posters, they follow one typical line of conventions, like they'll have the main antagonist and protagonist together to show the difference between them. But with our film, we wanted to avoid these horror conventions, so instead we just used the main antagonist of the film. So we made her look bloody and disgusting to make it seem and tell everyone that we're making a horror film, not something different. Also, we used the slogan of "Check your locks" to put the audience into a state of uneasiness, as this creates the audience to be a bit more paranoid, and promote the film and set the tone of our film. For our poster to be successful, we looked at a variety of sources and different types of film posters to get our ideas across. I looked into quite a famous film poster of the film The Poltergeist. This poster had a very empty essence to it, and it was quite effective. So, as this told the audience not much about the film, in which it could have asked the audience questions like, do they want to know more about this? For example, there'd just be one person with no writing, or just the word "the poltergeist," as this begins to make the audience ask questions and they want to know more about the film. So in doing so, we had as little detail as possible in our poster to capture that empty effect of just the antagonist on the poster and not telling the audience much about it. For example, we just had our character, the evil character, on the page, close up of her face, with just the name of the film, The Purgatory. Overall, we believe that our film poster will sell to an audience due to our unique style and theme of our film. For example, we spent time photoshopping the antagonist to look dismembered and add to the narrative of our story of her being evil and dead.